Hello, students. So we were talking about transportation. I'm reading it out once more. Transportation is a service or facility through which passengers, freight, and industrial products are carried from one place to another. It plays a very important role in development of any country. It is one of the basic tertiary activities. The last lecture I had already spoken about this. Development of all economic activities is dependent on transportation system. Moving further, what are the functions of transport? At an economic level, exchange of goods and the everyday travel of the population. So this is at the economic level. When the population is traveling, there is exchange of goods and services happening. So this gives an economic advantage because of transportation. The next function of transport is political. If you look at it from the political point of view, it integrates the different regions and areas of the territory, allowing economic access and access to public services. So these public services, whatever is there within a country, in the world, are provided on a political background or a political framework or on the political basis. It's via the government. So transportation plays a very important role when you look at it from the government point of view. Social. It facilitates human relations. Now, in socialism, socialist, social, being social is something all about to do with human relations, leisure, and connects cultures. Now, transportation also plays a pivotal role where the social aspect is concerned. Human relations are very important in today's time, students. And if at all you maintain good relations, it's always it works for you positively in your life. And connecting cultures, we have diverse cultures in our country itself. So there also transportation plays a very important role. So we can say that functions of transport are at economic and political as well as social level. Now the transport networks, how does this work? Just a small intro about that. The infrastructure which is necessary for vehicles to circulate. Now vehicles to circulate any kind of planes need air, ships need water, vice versa. Uh, Railway tracks need rails, and vehicles, two-wheeler, four-wheeler, all of those need roads. So the nodes are cities and stations. Axes or lines connect these nodes. Connectivity between the nodes is connected to the level of development. Developed countries have a dense, structured, and hierarchical work. I mean, how are these cities connected? If you'll have a look at this, the lines, what you can see, they connect cities and the nodes. These lines connect. So they have a dense, structured, and hierarchical network. Developing and underdeveloping countries have a different way of working. Now, today, times, everything is worked upon on the sustainable development. So there's sustainable transportation. Today's times, if you all see, we have to have sustainable development. We have to adhere to it. We should be following it and we should be serious about it. Now, what does this sustainable transportation mean, or what relevance does it have? Is human transportation that does not rely on fossil fuels. Now, fossil fuels, as in these are depleting the non-renewable energy, the natural resources, if you look at those, or other finite resources, does not harm the environment. We should have that kind of transportation which is sustainable and which does not harm the environment. We have harmed the environment enough, students, and that is something which is curtailing our growth and development in a way where we have health issues, medical issues, global warming, and that's affecting the human existence or any kind of living being or living species on this earth. And it still allows mankind to travel the world as quickly and safely as they do today. Now, it's not that if you take up sustainable development or you make changes in sustainable transportation, you're not going to be able to travel or you have to make certain adjustments. No, it is you're looking into transportation, you're developing all the aspects of transportation in such a way where it does not hurt the environment and it still allows mankind to travel the world safely, because traveling is a part of our existence, as in when I talk about at an economic level or a social level also. We want to travel for leisure, for our business purposes, economic also purposes. If you see, so we need to travel. So travel sometimes we have to think that how travel plays a very important role, and transportation is like playing a very pivotal role in today's times because of globalization. Now, means of transportation are essential components of transport systems. They are the means to carry passengers or freight or combination of both from one place to another. Transportation is just not carrying people from one place to another. It carries industrial products, freight also, or the combination of both. Means of transportation can be grouped into three broad categories based on the medium they use. Now, the means of transportation: road, where you see villages, bullock carts, okay, these cycles. Now, definitely villages, rural areas have developed and they have two-wheelers and four-wheelers also, and then tractors are there. Huge vehicles are also there, trucks are there. Okay. Then there is in urban areas, if you see, you have all kinds of four-wheelers, you have all kinds of two-wheelers, different brands. Water transport is ships, boats, leisure is yacht. Then there are fishing is done basically via the boats. So there's transportation, there's business happening through fishing. Air is we have air for leisure purposes or defense purposes. Boeing we have. There are a lot of other things. Railways also we have. It's a means of transport. Each mode, each mode means what? Each mode which we are talking about, whether it's um, air, land, water, or rail. So whatever, if you talk road, rail, and waterways and airways, if you talk, has its own requirements and features. Now, what works for the railway department or railway transportation may not be needed in the road transportation. Similarly, water transportation has its own importance and relevance as compared to air transportation. As we just heard about an example where cotton can be taken over from in a ship because it's non-perishable, so you can, and it's lower in cost, so you can use uh, water transport. But certain products which are perishable or state of emergency, you need air transport. So it depends upon the requirements, and it is adapted to serve the specific demands of freight and passenger traffic. This gives rise to marked differences in the ways the means are deployed and utilized in different parts of the world. Now, what importance each of these mode of transport has in its own way. If you see in London, rails and the subways have a huge importance. It's the backbone. There are bullet trains in Japan. They are workaholics. They respect time. So travel is something, everything is on the clock. Nothing, they don't actually disrespect time. That's what I would say. Japan is one country where we can learn a lot about their culture. They're too close to their culture. They respect their workplace and they are very diligent in their work. So different countries have different importance. Now, Mumbai, if you take for that matter, in our own country, Mumbai, the central railway system is the backbone, it's the lifeline of Mumbaikars because most of the population travels by rail. As in, there's so much traffic on road that people prefer traveling by rail to reach on time, and it's like it's so prompt. At times, yes, it's busy, it's too tight, wherein too crowded, But Mumbai railway station is Central railway station is something like you cannot do. Mumbai shuts down if it doesn't work. For that matter, if you see Mumbai airport, Delhi airport, if you all see, if you are traveling to certain places, Pune airport does not have those many international flights as in Mumbai airport has. So it's a busy air route, rail route within the country. So for various reasons, they are very important and they're deployed for those and utilized in different parts of the world. Various geographical factors govern the development of transport. Relief, location, and climate are the three major physical factors. The topography, the land, the place, the site, the climate. These are three major physical factors. Now, generally, it is easier to build rails, roads, and pipelines where relief is not rugged, where it's not rough, where it is not disoriented. So, dense forest, hilly, and mountainous regions affect construction of long routes, rails, and roads. Now, we have studied a lot when we were doing previous topics related to this where settlements are not possible in forests and hilly and mountainous regions is because the routes aren't that clear. There are no natural routes, and to actually construct long routes or rails in these areas is very difficult. It's not easy. For example, in dense forest and arid regions of Africa and South America, construction of long distance roads and rails is difficult because there are dense forests over there. So now you can't cut down those forests because they have you can say the biodiversity would get affected and the ecosystem will get harmed as well as it's difficult as in the simple way construction is also concerned. So you can't have long distance roads and rails in these routes or in these areas. Coastal area locations are favorable for development of ports and harbors. We have seen and we've heard of Vishakhapatnam port, Mumbai port. If you'll see, they are near the coastal areas. They can have big ports and harbors and there are big businesses happening because they are broken coastlines. Therefore, not all coastal areas can be good ports. So certain ports in India are known and some ports are not good because of their infrastructure within the area itself. So their infrastructure is not that great or they have broken coastlines as said. So all the ports are not good. With development of technology, air transport is now used more. Now, if you see airline industry has grown, there are different companies which have come with their own individual airlines. They are giving good packages, different because passenger traffic in air has increased. And sometimes one of the biggest reasons, what I feel personally is because there are so many airlines which have come into this business, so they are actually competing with one another where the prices are concerned. So now, if you go to Mumbai, from Mumbai to Delhi, probably, for example, I don't know the airfare exactly what it is. Suppose you can go with if it's in a first class rail and the air ticket for certain planes is almost the same. So people would prefer to air travel as in you reach in a short span, as well as you don't have to you're spending that much amount of money, but your time is saved. So there's a lot of air. Then there's travel. Now today travel industry is booming. Uh, Initially, a decade ago, we weren't aware of the so many places weren't explored, but now uh, due to social media and due to a lot of information available via discovery channels on television, or there's special travel and living channels, which have shown us that oh, these places are there in the world and they can be explored. And especially for recreational purpose, for peace of mind, many people go to different, now you all know Aurobindo Ashram in Pondicherry, as well as there are different Himalayas where there are Ananda retreat is there. People who are real yogic, who actually want to experience real yoga, go to these places. Then in Austria, there's a place where it's majorly famous for natural weight loss, as well as it's a beautiful city. It's a beautiful city. It's a must visit. There is a place in Croatia which has just recently been spoken about, and the beauty and nature. We all know about simple the patent ones were like we know about Kashmir, we know about Switzerland. These were the two. But today, people want to explore different parts of the country and different parts of the world and want to spend time traveling. And there are different facilities, as in you can work from anywhere. There are many facilities therein also. Companies are giving them facilities, air travel discounts, all of that. So the air travel has really, really gone up. But still, major trade happens through ocean routes. Yes, this is a fact. A lot of trade happens through ocean routes compared to the air travel. Because one more thing, students, you all need to know that air travel is expensive affair. The most expensive mode of transport is air travel. Two canals which change the course of transport, Suez Canal and Panama Canal, were constructed to avoid long ocean routes. Yes, before I forget, I would really want you all to know about Suez Canal and Panama Canal. A little more details of these would really help all. If at all, in my next lecture it's possible, I would definitely talk about Suez Canal and Panama Canal, and I will give you all some information about it. What is the relevance of it, and what importance does it have? They changed the use of ocean routes radically. Suez Canal connected Asia with Europe and Africa. Now it connected two continents. Panama Canal joined Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. Now, yes, this is important. Some more information I would love to give you all. If at all, even you can collect and you can have this information, because when you are expanding your answers, students, these things really help. These things are really going to help you all, wherein you are able to understand how today's times, how things are working, and how we can really place them on paper with real things happening around, and we can actually show the person or your or your person or the examiner that yes, you are aware of what's happening in today's times. Then, for airways to develop, one needs favorable climate. Yes, when the climate or the weather is bad, you'll have seen air travel takes a jolt. That matter, if you'll see ships also, I mean, it makes a difference. But air travel also, uh, it's more so dangerous also. Advanced technology and plain regions for airports. Constant fog or smog area with high peaks become an obstacle for air transportation. We have seen very lately, before the pandemic happened, we have seen the air quality of Delhi in particular is very bad. It's next to dangerous. I mean, people are going to have a lot of respiratory issues. They can go through a lot of diseases which are malignant, and the reason being because the temperature, the climate is not suitable. There's so much of air pollution. So there's a lot of fog and smog during winters, and you all will see during monsoons also. Sometimes that planes are cancelled, and the routes take, I mean, 2 3 days also it takes because of the weather. So weather plays a very important role. And via technology, sometimes in advance you come to know that the air travel cannot happen in a particular time or at a particular time, because there are danger signs given uh, because of the latest technology. So that's there. Then we uh, for airways to develop, one needs, yes, I completed this, favorable climate, high peaks become an obstacle for air transportation. Okay. Now, there's another kind of, this is some information. Now, what is outsourcing? This is also some kind of service, tertiary sector. Sometimes the location of the provider is not important. In those cases, developed countries often transfer some of their services to less developed countries where labor force is cheaper. So this is outsourcing. You all have been listening to. It's become a serious issue where India and America are concerned. There's a lot of outsourcing happening, and America is taking serious and sincere steps towards for their country, if you may say so. We would not get into the details, but this is a situation. And UK also, for that matter, outsourcing is being discussed and spoken about. And especially this comes under the category of IT, software engineers. India, it is a country which has specially benefited from the outsourcing of Western services. Why? Because low labor costs plus availability of workers with expertise in new technology and fluency in English. So these are the three reasons. See, students, our education system at a school level in India is the best, if you may say so, because we learn so much, we are tuned so much. Yes, definitely. Sometimes the pressure is too much for y'all, but at a school level, our education system is the best. For higher education, yes, Western countries are the best. But given the scenario now for outsourcing, now why is India lucky where? Because the labor costs are low, availability of workers definitely there. There are so many people every year coming out, passing out as with good scores and good academic results and good jobs wherein they have good expert experiences. So, there is a variety, I mean, they can be chosen from, and they are experts in their fields. Secondly, fluency in English. Now, English has become a major part of our life. You all are seeing that the lower level, middle classes, lower, middle, upper, definitely, but the lower level classes also, or lower level people living in our country, they are also given this education facility that we are promoting English in a big way because English is one language which is accepted all over the world. After that, there's a query probably look out for the most spoken language in the world. You all may be surprised that it's not English, it's some other language also. So get that clear. Okay, this was about outsourcing. Then now tourism. When we talk about tourism, what exactly tourism is? When I spoke about tourism, how is it helping? Tourism consists of the activities people do for pleasure during their travels. It is considered a contemporary phenomena. Until the mid 20th century, tourism was limited to wealthy people. I spoke to you all some time ago. This is some more extra info. Was limited to wealthy people and took place mostly in coastal areas, spas, and health resorts. Now it's not restricted. As I said, there are a lot of air industries coming where they have their different companies have their own facilities for air travel. And secondly, standard of living has improved. People are able to then sometimes when you're working in certain companies as a perk, you have some brownie points which you earn for your travel. So these all contribute to the booming tourism industry. In 1950s, developed countries experienced a period of high economic growth and became a mass phenomena. Since then, the number of tourists has grown steadily. Now, the growth of tourism, why has it happened? Understand that. High income levels, people have more money to spend. I mean, the spending capacity is much more. Improved transport. Yes, transport facilities have really improved because of technology. The costs have reduced and time has reduced. Now there is more leisure time. If at all you plan it properly, there is leisure time. People have more days off and paid holidays. Yes, this is one point which needs to be taken into consideration. Initially, your whatever time slots where you were not available at office, you weren't paid. But nowadays you have paid holidays. Certain days are allotted which are paid holidays. And diversification, more options are offered, hotels, rural houses, campsites, specialized companies. Then there are tour operators and travel agencies create travel packages. There are so many travel tour operators and there are this touring industry wherein There are various different packages offered. There are timings. There are some slots which are peak slots, and there are some are dormant slots wherein there isn't any business, but then they give you these discount offers where you can avail those and take advantage of that situation and promote new destinations. Then there's simple or no border formality. Sometimes there are a lot of visa issues. So all of this, see now tourism, why am I talking about, as I spoke about transportation, tourism also comes under this sector because it's creating some income generating. It's a service. Tourism is all service oriented. If you are not on your toes, you're not giving prompt service, tourism industry becomes a flop very fast. Word of mouth publicity is so relevant over here in this industry that if tourism has to survive, they have to be prompt in their action. They have to give good facilities. They need to take care of clean and cleanliness and hygiene and sanitation and a lot of formalities, visa formalities. So all this comes, this is word of mouth. I mean, you'll have heard that there are certain people who, suppose if they have visited Austria and they might tell 10 other people that I have gone through this travel agent and this is a place you need to explore. It's beautiful. So you automatically get driven towards it. So tourism is word of mouth publicity. Service, the services provide, whether you're in uh, the hospitality management over here has to be very good. I mean, when you check in into a hotel, I mean, the story begins, the service begins from there till when you wind up and you come back to your home country. So, tourism over here plays a very important role as a tertiary economic activity or a service. So, as you all know, there are positive effects also and there are negative effects also. The increase in wealth of receiving countries. Now, Rome, Italy, Vatican City, they are the world's best tourist hotspots if you look at it. And why they are giving income, they are generating a lot of wealth for the country, host country. So this has a positive effect on the country who is receiving them. Activation of the economy and labor market. Now, the labor market also is involved in it because it's providing various services and activation of the economy. The economy is growing in a positive way, in a smoother way. There's improvement and construction of infrastructure. Now, because of the influx of the tourists, they have to maintain their infrastructure. They have to be really charged up for wherein their infrastructure is not a barrier for this tourism industry. So this is the positive way. So the infrastructure doesn't take a toll because they know if at all there's something wrong with the infrastructure, it's going to affect the tourist industry. There are new economic opportunities in rural areas where it creates opportunities in rural areas in the countries you visit. Now, if it has positive, it has negative effects also. Regional economic imbalances. Yes, there are some imbalances which, from the economic point of view, and some regions are affected by that. Then seasonal and precarious employment. Sometimes, as I said, there are peak travel, and there are some travel time where you don't get these offers or you don't have. Now, in December, many people rush to Goa because Christmas time, New Year, so people relate Goa with New Year's. But if not in December, and if you happen to travel in just the probably you may say in the month of September or August, you may get a lot of discounts and facilities. So it's seasonal. It depends on what time are you traveling. And it's like this employment, it creates employment for people who are locally there. But sometimes this seasonal thing affects the labor market over there. Environmental impact. Now, if you'll see Goa for that matter, you'll see the pollution as in not only the air pollution, the noise pollution in Goa in December is terrible. The traffic that way, the transport, I mean, people are flocking in, there's a lot of rush, hotels are booked, Then sometimes some hotels cleanliness also takes a backseat. So it creates an environmental impact, as in some people are not environment conscious, and they do more harm than helping the environment. Now, international tourist flows. Developed countries are the source of almost all types of tourists who cross the border of any country. Today, there are nearly 900 million tourists with great variety of destinations. The travel industry or the tourism industry has grown to a larger extent. And whatever may be the positive and the negative impacts of this tourism industry, it has gone beyond certain expectations. Today we see there's a lot of traveling happening. I mean, people are traveling at least once in a year. And the kind of employment generation this tourism industry gives, or because of the services provided by them in the tertiary sector, is something which needs to be highly appreciable, as tourism is something, if at all it is seasonal, it can really do no good as such. But for tourism industry to really live longer, they have to maintain that kind of levels throughout the year and really work hard for smooth tourism happening in their particular country.